Hello, everyone. My name is Dejanay, and my research question is: does social media engagement affect healthy meal consumption? So, the reason I did select this topic is because, just like most of you, I have social media. And social media does have a huge influence on what I buy and also what I purchase. It gives you the option to review comments, to listen to other people's feedback. And I feel like hearing from the person who's purchased those items' point of view, it can decide whether or not that item will be beneficial for me. So, social media consists of Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, and YouTube. And they all give you the option to like. You can share, you can repost, you can even like, love, dislike, etc. To what you're viewing. Rather, it's a shared post, a video, a boomerang. Sponsored ads also populate on all social media, and it's very interesting seeing sponsored ads posts because if you Google an item, rather it's a food product or shopping at a store, right when you click into social media, Facebook, Instagram, you'll see that same website as a sponsored ad that can influence you to want to read more because now it's populating on your social media content. Also, videos and boomerangs are huge because most companies use videos to promote their business. They use boomerangs. I know when starting up businesses, a lot of those companies create social media content as a marketing strategy to promote their items. And also, it gives other people the option to reply, to comment, again, share, and repost. So, based on the literature that I have reviewed for my research question, I've decided to break down a lot of the material into three subcategories. So, most of the literature that I spoke and read about talks about increased unhealthy meal and snack consumption, body dissatisfaction, and weight management. And reviewing these articles, I've noticed that a lot of social media affects children, young adults, teens, because they're the ones that are that target market for these companies, rather it's a fast food chain, rather it's a new business. Social media has been the way to go for marketing. Okay, so this article journal that I read talks about the social influence on Instagram to children, and especially small age children. I have a 4-year old who watches kids play with toys all the time. Sometimes these kids have McDonald's promoting those toys, and he'll ask to go to try the toy, go to McDonald's just to get that toy and that item. So this journal talks about selecting two popular kid videos with over 1 million followers to review how the healthy food, unhealthy food, or the non food was marketed based on those viewers. So, hunger, caloric intake, and social media surveys were completed. And of course, because they were children, it had to be approved by the parent. And the procedure consisted of the children viewing social media for a minute, following questions based on their hunger after watching, and then served the four snacks. So once those snacks were served to the children, the food was weighed and it helped calculate their intake. So it helped calculate how much they ate or if they were not interested in that item. And the results of this study showed that children had an increased intake of those healthy snack consumptions compared to healthy snacks and non-food snacks. So what I've gathered is a lot of those younger children, they had toys, and that's what brings those kids attention is the toys that they're playing with. So they'll record for hours at a time playing with toys, eating a snack or eating breakfast, lunch, or dinner, which then helps contribute to those items, which is also another marketing strategy. The next journal that I reviewed talks about the influence of food selections based on the weight of the social media influencer. And I found this journal very interesting, seeing the presumption of how children viewed those influencers based on their size. So they were on the social media platform, Instagram, promoting healthy and unhealthy snacks. So those influencers were either thin or overweight. And the judgment of the weight caused the young children to believe that if they did consume the unhealthy product or unhealthy snacks, that they may be overweight just from consuming those items, and also vice versa for the thin social media influencer. And I think that this is a positive journal because most of the time, the journals that I was reviewing talked about the negative influence of the consuming unhealthy snacks based on social media content. So I saw this journal as a very positive impact and positive influence on the meals that the influencer were trying to promote, because it gave those children that idea that if I do consume this product, then I may look like that. Next, exposure to food and beverage marketing and social media apps. So the children were surveyed using smart devices, and they had to view social media applications for 5 minutes, which was a total 5 minutes each, a total of 10 minutes. And the viewing on social media were monitored by Pro Glasses, and the Pro Glasses is it's a smart device that allows the promoter to look at the items as the kid look at the social media content and see and measure the time that they did spend. So they ran into food advertisement, general content, even celebrity and food logos were analyzed as well. And the average time spent on social media was 139 minutes. So it's a little over 2 hours on the weekend and an hour and a half during the weekday, which is a lot of screen time for children, especially small age children. And the results were 72% of the children social media content displayed unhealthy food choices, which is huge, 72%. And fast food was the most promoted in both children and adolescents. And later there's also a journal that I'll review that talks about the top fast food chain which viewed red children, which was McDonald's. So it's very interesting to see how these studies correlate with one another. And secondly, sugary beverages, which 68% and 77% of those were branded products. So your branded products is going to be like your Hershey's, your Doritos, your Cheetos. So you can see that a lot of unhealthy options were being promoted in just 5-10 minute total that they were seeing so many different marketing items. So next was frequency of video blogs and unhealthy snacks and beverage consumption. So another smart device was used, which was My Moves, and it's a wearable lab, just like that the glasses. So they were able to monitor their activity, and they were answering questionnaire to measure the frequency of the vlogs that they were viewing. Unhealthy snacks and beverages were specified 3 out of the 7 days, which was not much. It's a very little time frame. And in that little time frame, it showed the association of watching the blogs compared to how long over the past years, which related the main category was seeing unhealthy beverages. So as you can see previously, about 68% of sugary beverages was consumed in a different study. So you can see that linkage between the two. But it didn't show a correlation of consumption of all healthy snacks. It just showed the continuation throughout the years. So it may be based on years later when they're older, or even when they're younger, they may want more. So that's kind of I think that was more of a difficult thing to view in that study. But also this study showed an increased frequency, which was a stronger influence on this study. So next, this was the engagement of the brands with children in social media. And this is one of my favorite studies, only because this included demographics, which I thought was very interesting because most studies didn't break it down with demographics and it didn't create like an association between the two. And the participants were asked questions based on their screen time, engagement, the different social media content that they were viewing, and they were able to assess the type of food, their engagement, like I mentioned, based on the demographics. And the results consisted that 70% of those were engaged with unhealthy brands. 49% reported consumption of sugary drinks with Coke. So then again, here's that correlation between the three. Another sugary beverage, with Coke being consumed the most. And then this study continues, like I mentioned, with fast food. You got 54% consuming McDonald's. And then Subway was the least popular. So you can see Subway has healthier options, and McDonald's has more fried food, more sugary beverages, more sweetened desserts compared to Subway. And then 45% snacks were consumed were Doritos, and compared to like other chip brands. And then 46% of those participants reported candy. Hershey's chocolate was the most consumed compared to Skittles. And also, based on the results, 81% of those participants were Black and less acculturated Hispanics compared to 61% white and high acculturated Hispanics. And another study helped investigate the social media influence on this marketing. So all of these articles basically tied in together that shows that social media does impact the consumption. And then next, this is based on marketing. So these are your young children, your teens, so 12 to 18. And they were required a food diary with images of food to help assess the quality and that marketing appeal on 1 week. They answered some questions based on the images, and they based on what they searched and what they shared. So the results showed that popular restaurants, coffee shops, Starbucks was in fact one of those, and ice cream chains. So you're getting into that adolescent age where they're eating out more, they're learning more, and then 67% foods were categorized as non-core, so or unhealthy foods. So if you think about it, your fast food chains, your coffee shops, your ice cream shops, they're considered non-core or unhealthy. And also it showed that food sizes were overportioned. So not only was the non-core food, but also those items were overportioned based on their requirements. So next, let's talk about the supplemental intake influence and negative body image. So physical appearance is often compared, especially you see that most males are very competitive, and you'll see that this study reflected male participants, and they were asked questions measured on appearance, how often they viewed social media, look at others while they're in the gym, compare their bodies to those on social media, and how much time they did spend on social media. And lastly, the importance of their muscles and body image. So they used the revised male body attitude scales, and that helped just measure their bodies and their muscles. And then the other set of questions just asks about their dietary supplements or if they're taking performance enhancing drugs. And most guys do take some guys take enhancing drug supplements only because they see others and they want to look like those guys, and that's also a huge impact on them as well, is when you're working out and you just start and you see these buff guys and you want to look like them. So based on that study, they had to be involved in resistance training. 44% of those male individuals were regular training. 4.1% is CrossFit. 3 was power lift, and 2 were Olympic weightlifting. So 45% of the male participants reported that their goal was to decrease their fat muscle. So they were going to the gym, and also 95 used social media and Instagram. So that's almost all of those participants. And then 72% reflected that they were checking social media very often. So it showed that 83% of those participants consumed dietary supplements. And then also it showed that a positive correlation with body image and supplemental intake. So like I mentioned earlier, as they're going to the gym, as they're seeing those other males there, you'll see that influence and wanting to take those dietary supplements based on what they're seeing in other people's image. So a systemic review was conducted to review the impact of social media and weight management. So they search keywords like YouTube, Facebook, MySpace, so your social media platforms, and then for weight management, obesity, weight gain, weight loss, BMI, physical activity. And they would had to include diet, physical activity out of 12 studies. 2 included the weight maintenance, and 5 discussed physical activity, but only one of them focused on diet. And it showed that social media had a bigger impact on the participants compared to classroom style. So instead of learning in a classroom, they felt that it was more easier to learn through via social media. But this study also showed that that there was no real correlation or improvements in weight management. So lastly, I'll review the effect of social media engagement in young adults with their overall intake. So it showed that increased exposure of social media has increased the impulsivity of consumption. So more of your impulse buys whenever you're at a store. I know that if I'm shopping at a grocery store and I'll see these items on closer to the registers or they're on the end cap, you'll see that most of those items are items that you've seen on commercial. So you'll have a big display, and often that influenced me to buy because I was like, hey, I saw that on a commercial, let me try it, or hey, I saw someone shared about that on Facebook. So this study actually showed the exposure of social media and how impulsivity was measured. And they were asked to answer questions based on the Likert scale, statements regarding impulsivity based on acting off impulse, or planning or not thinking prior to purchasing. So the eating behaviors were broken down into 3 categories: cognitive restraint, emotional eating, and uncontrolled eating. So the results showed that there was a strong relationship between social media and consuming food based on food cravings. But that also is why you don't go to the store when you're hungry, because if you go to the store when you're hungry, you're going to want to buy everything. So those items that you did see on social media that you've seen commercials on, you're going to want to buy it because you're hungry and you're going to want to try it. But it also showed a strong relationship in impulse buy. So we often impulse buy when we see it because we've seen it before, or I had a friend who told me about this, or a friend that shared this item with me because they saw someone else on social media. So I found this article very interesting because this is very true and is very similar to most of us and how we purchase items, because most of the time it's off impulse. And it's only off impulse because we've seen it before, rather social media or from a friend. So in conclusion, several studies indicated that social media related to unhealthy meal consumption. And it also been proven that the content of social media influence contribute at all ages, whether it's children, adolescent teens, or young adults. But it also doesn't just affect poor nutrient intake, but also weight management and obesity, as we've seen from the male the male guys that were at the gym working out and consuming dietary supplements, or the influence of not purchasing an item because we've seen that will either become overweight from consuming the unhealthy product. And it's also shown that different brands like Hershey's or Doritos or your fast food chains like McDonald's and dietary supplements are also constantly being influenced through the promotion of social media. So these are my references. And then again, thank you for viewing, and I definitely hope that this helps view the impact on social media. Thank you.